Hello and welcome to the Inquisitorial Archive. My name is Kevin O'Rourke and today I'm going to be reviewing Creatures Anathema for Dark Heresy, published by Fantasy Flight Games. This is your kind of, it's not that big. It's a little bit storybook that they brought out for Dark Heresy. It gives a little bit of background on the bad guys, plus some adventure hooks to do with different ones, introducing some new guys. And I broke it up to a few nice different sections. There's definitely a lot of useful information here to be used. I'm not happy with certain elements of it, which I'll get to later. They break it down. They've got some stuff to do with mutations. They've got forbidden sciences, like horrible servitors, that kind of things that have been created that are against laws and that kind of thing. But you end up with bits on Xenos and Maltech and Malleus, demons and such. One of the characters I quite like to introduce here is Archimedes Noxed, who is a mutant. And he's a mutant crime lord, but nobody's sure how old he is, because his mutation allows him to take the flesh of the dead and graft it onto his body to sustain his life. But he must constantly be changing parts, because these parts eventually start to rot, and he must replace them. And he uses an Imperium stuff. He seems like quite a cunning guy to put in, and for certain types of games it definitely works. They've got some additional information here which is quite useful, like Holgas are these cool guys they're mutants who commonly live on ships, and they're quite dangerous creatures. I'm not going to go through every bag that are in these books. I'm just going to give you some of my personal favourites. They've got the Empty Men of, what are they called again? I don't have a picture here. But they've got the False Men of Nomen Rin. It's basically a heretic magus, or heretic anyway, who made these androids, these robots, and some of them actually believe they're him, and they go around, they're worshipped by these cults who think it's actually him and stuff, and they're pretty cool. I have to admit, I really like the idea there of them running around in 40k, or at least the Calixtus sector anyway. And of course the Mechanicus hates and despises these things. You've got the Obliviates, who are very similar to Servitors, except for Death Mechanicus like, no, that's heretics. That's not right. That destroys people's souls. You shouldn't allow that. Servitors are completely different. Obliviates they're bad, and you basically can jam this spike, I think, into somebody and take control of them, and you start augmenting and make them into your pawns. One of the cool things here is the schismatical. The schismaticals of the deep info tombs, which is something found on the a Forge world and some of its tombs, which it's kind of some scrap code which will infect things with the machine trait or bionics, and it will take control of them, which is pretty cool to actually be able to put in there. I always found it quite interesting to do something like that. They've got some various creatures for Death Worlds. I'm definitely going to be using these soon enough in my only war game, and some old classics like the Amble, a bit of somewhat obscure creature which is very dangerous, its homeworld is so harsh, people try to bring it into other systems and domesticate it, but its homeworld is so harsh and they're so stubborn you can't actually domesticate them properly, although many people have tried, or this is how they're portraying them here. I know it's portrayed differently in other places to varying degrees, but that their homeworld is so harsh that they thrive in any other environment. Sort of very dangerous foe for people to fight. You've got some wonderful, charming gentlemen and ladies, such as the Fenx World Pit Thing, which is a nasty customer. Like, they've got stuff tied into particular different worlds, but you can modify it. They've just got some lovely stuff in here. One of them I quite like is the Skin Taker Fadrid, which is basically this legend about this creature. Now it pretty much leaves it open-ended. It gives you different stats before it to go. Is this creature actually a creature? Is it some kind of malefic entity? Is it some? I've had thoughts myself. You could put it in there as a instead of having it as a demon or a beast, perhaps it's some Dark Elder who likes to go hunt on this particular world. Do kind of like a Predators type thing, a small number of Dark Elder go off and quietly and discreetly start hunting. Maybe a Mandrake or something like that. There are some options that you could potentially use for PCs, like they've got Vermin Speaker, who are kind of telepaths who are able to control animals. But they do talk about this. Usually these are guys who are in the Underhive who haven't been sanctioned, though they could potentially be sanctioned later on. I know a PC of mine who loves the idea of using these guys. He really wants to try one out again. And finally, you get to stuff that are really more conventional for the case of you have stats for Eldar, and not just one or two types of Eldar, a couple. You've got the Dire Avengers, the Rangers, and a named Eldar pirate who's been known to go around the Calixis sector looking for something. You get some stats for your weapons and stuff. You know, it's not a huge amount on a Eldar, but it's enough to get you by. They could change some of the stats around, do different things. More books coming up, but this is quite a thin book, so you're only getting the 2 and you're getting description of the Eldar. They've got the Amnulians, who are different type of species that basically their empire used to be where the Calixis sector is, or part of the Calixis sector is. But the Imperium in their Angevin Crusade has crushed and wiped out their homeworlds. There's only small bands. Their species is on the road to becoming extinct. They hate the Imperium. They're willing to work with Chaos Guys. They utterly hate the Imperium. They have pathological hatred. They have to make tests to avoid not attacking, things that have the Imperial symbol on it, like the Aquila. They absolutely hate it. One of the things I think kind of sad is they're introduced here, but they never actually expand upon them outside this book, really. They're only just kind of mentioned here. The weapons they use aren't that particularly damaging. However, I think they missed out an opportunity here, but you've got at least a little bit of the background for them here. They're also quite weird because when people are hiring them as mercenaries, they won't work for Imperials, but they will work for other people. They don't really necessarily have a problem with humans. They have a problem with the Imperium. When they work for other people, they don't deal in money. They will only accept certain items, which they could accept a withered plant or something weird as payment. And if that kind of a plot hook there, it's like, well, why do they want all this stuff? Are they preparing for some kind of sorcerer's ritual, or why do they want all these random bits of gear? And there's kind of a black market in these guys who are kind of be experts in them and are able to identify pieces of stuff like, yeah, I think they'll want one of those. You got stats for the Enslaver or 40k favorites. The only trials you're going to find, actually there's 2 trials you're going to find in this book: the Gene Stealer and the Lictor, because on the other side of the galaxy they're the only ones you're likely to come across unless you have just, Bioship got washed through the warp storm. You got washed up near the Calixis sector or something, which would be really a horrible turnout for the Calixis sector. But Gene Stealers are pretty good here. They give him better stats later on in some of the other books, but this is focused towards Dark Heresy, and this was early days, so I can't really fault him that. The Lictor is very scary. I have no problem with I'd use the stats from Death Watch for a lot of the other games, but for this game, it's fine. They've got your stats on orcs. They've got an orc boy, they've got an orc knob, they've got Gretchen, they've got Swigs. They've got what you really need for your game if you want to put them in, plus a few different bits of gear. It's not that hard to monkey around. Once more, the book's small. They're going to so much stuff. Simulacra are a new original species that they're shape-shifting aliens that can look like humans and stuff, but they can only appear to look like someone who they've eaten the brain of, and they slowly digest this brain. They can access some of their memories, but this gets more difficult as time goes by, so they have to keep changing and going around. So to get some interest, there's definitely a lot of potential for using those, and I have one in my own game. And then they've got your demonic section. First up is probably my favourite bad guy in the book. He's another one of the original ones. They're called Assessors of the Black Tontine. These guys are cool. The idea is that certain guys go around and they start going, or Tontines are that everyone signs up, and the last one who lives gets, like, everyone puts in so much money, and the last one who lives gets to inherit all that money. It's like, yay, grand. Except for these ones are written, and they're quite popular in different worlds, and except for these ones are written with certain inks and done with a certain amount of ritual to them. And the cool part is that the assessors will show up, these guys in the black robes with the staff, and start killing off people. Once it's become popular enough, they'll start killing off people. And what you don't know is you're losing your soul as part of this. So they'll start killing off people and they'll start gathering up the souls. And you can try and, they've got a nice bit there where if the PCs try to argue with them using some kind of appropriate skill like Scholastic or Bureaucracy or something, they might be able to stave them off for a little while, but at the end of the day, the assessor just doesn't care. He will try and take the souls, but you can slow him for a little bit by trying to argue the point with him. If he'll try and think, yeah, I can win this. Anyway, he doesn't care if he loses. He'll do it. They've got a lot of the Astral Spectres are like nice little sort of minor demon online things. They're pretty cool. The Burning one is a demon host that was created by an Inquisitor, which is incredibly dangerous to set up various cults. It's a cool mastermind type bad guy, and not bad in combat itself, especially for a Dark Heresy bad guy. But they're a nice mastermind to go with. Your man Nox is pretty cool too, the mutant guy, but they're working at random levels because it's demon host. Something which I think, the Eye of the Abyss is this weird demon ship, demon possessed ship that like comes out of warp and attacks people, and they have stats for basically some of the ammunition shoots at people. These things are actually demonically possessed themselves, and I do think you could definitely use this for Rogue Trader. You could do some quite cool stuff with that there. They got some of the stats from the more iconic stuff. You got your Flamers of Zinch, you got your Flesh Hounds of Khorne, you got the Juggernauts of Khorne, but you still have some more original guys like the Lady of the Voids, which is this cool Saneshi demon which can sometimes possess navigators or astropaths particularly, and they've got this cool Siren's Call kind of thing. They're really weird, but I've used them before in the game, it worked out pretty well. And if that's for Nurglings, you know, they have them there. Yes, the Praetorus of the Starry Order is another, not quite a demon, but definitely a warp entity. What you could call it a demon. It's basically, if you know about this demon, it can and will come after you, which I really like. It's like, knowledge of it is a problem. Once you know of this demon, it can potentially try and come after you, and it can keep coming after you. They have this kind of odd sort of, not quite lesser demon, the Ruination of Imperfect Beauty, which is a pretty cool Saneshi demon as well. And lastly, they have, I think, for what to do with your bad guys, you know, how to make them, you know, a bit more interesting. And one of the things I really liked is, I believe it's this book anyway. Yeah, they have a table for if, yeah, you need to make a bad guy, you need to make him a bit more interesting, and you're doing it off the cuff. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to use York Knob stats and I'm going to roll your D100. You get 46. So 46 says, let's see, he's got the Combat Master talent. It's like, okay, that's a talent. And let's see, he's got, he rolls a 12 on the other table. There's two tables. The 12 is, he's got Xenos hide. So he's got lots of Xenos pelts all over him. He's got Combat Master. But there's some odd stuff that you can do up here. Like, you can end up with unusual bits of gear. I think it works out pretty well. Of the Bestiary books is the first one they did for the 40k RPG, like a Bestiary type book, or Bestiaria. I just keep going with Bestiary, I don't know why. It's got some nice stuff. They tried to cram a lot in here, and they didn't make it particularly big. They didn't. So I think it's a bit steep for its price, especially because I'm not too keen on some of the ways I've represented stuff here. But if you need something basic, it covers a lot in the book to a degree anyway, and you've got a building blocks to work on. It's got a lot of interesting new monsters. I do like that. You've got new creatures which haven't come up before. The Anulians. The Burning One is a named guy, but he's a demon host. Demons also come up before. You can always come up with something like them. But having, you know, the Anulians, or the Simulacran there, it's pretty cool. I like it. It's additional options for as a GM. It's not really anything in here for PC. I mean, maybe you can loot some of the weapons off the bad guys, but it's a book for the GM. You know, that's the way I like to see it. You can definitely run a lot of Dark Heresy adventures out of this book alone. You know, it's got a lot of adventure seeds, and you just have to go from there. It's got like a paragraph or two, and this is what's happening. Go. And I like that, as well as additional bits of background. I think it works out pretty well. But this has been my review of Creatures Anathema. Some of the other bestiary books are better, in my opinion. But this one's a nice one angled towards Dark Heresy that touches on a lot of different areas. I'll be reviewing some of the other books that are similar to this for the different lines in the future. But until then, goodbye.